I got nightmares in my head, I fear thoughts build up until I can't hear. My mind fills up into a creature, and it haunts me somewhere much deeper. I got nightmares in my head, I fear the thoughts build up until I can't hear. That my mind fills up into a creature, and it haunts me somewhere much deeper.
Hello and welcome to True Crime Rocket Science, the most authentic voice in true crime. It's been a pretty traumatic time for the family of Rex Heuermann, especially their return home. I'm not sure home is still where the heart is. I mean, imagine if you suspected crimes, that's crimes plural, had been committed in your home by someone close to you. Would you still want to live there? But that raises the question, were crimes committed in the Heuermann home? Obviously, the basement is a world of intrigue on its own. But what do we make of Heuermann's wife's DNA ending up on 3 of the victims? Before we get to that, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do. I really wanted to, in the place of this video, do one dealing with the psychology of Heuermann as a father. But I'm still researching that aspect. If you're enjoying this episode, please like, share, leave a comment. You can also hit the thanks button, and let's get started. So, if you're like me or the cops, you don't consider Asa a suspect, or an accessory, or a co-conspirator. She was out of town when all the crimes happened. So, how did her DNA end up on the victims? I think one obvious possibility is that the victims were brought into an area where Asa had been, such as Heuermann's vehicle. In this scenario, the victim wouldn't necessarily need to even enter the house for the DNA to transfer onto her. Another possibility is that it transferred onto Heuermann's clothing. In other words, his wife's DNA transferred onto his clothing, which then transferred onto the victims. And that then leaves the third possibility, which is obviously the most disturbing. The third possibility is that the victims went to Heuermann's home, as sex workers sometimes do, and then went into the bedroom and got into the bed in the master bedroom. The bed and bedroom are natural destinations for sex, whether paid for or not. This is one way Asa's DNA could definitely transfer, as a bed is basically a reservoir of DNA. One reason the bed-bedroom scenario becomes somewhat plausible is because these aren't simply a series of murders. There appears to be a definite sexual aspect to it. All 4 victims were ostensibly sex workers. That is how Heuermann got hold of them, and it is on that premise, based on that premise, that they went to see him. And all of this is besides the violent porn searches on the suspect's phone. The word sex appears 10 times in the bail application for Rex Heuermann. So it feels like that is a big part of the fabric of this case. Now, I think it's fair to assume, simply from the DNA transfer aspect, that several crimes may have occurred in the Heuermann home, but more specifically in the bedroom. Do you agree with that? Even if they didn't occur there, would you still want to live in that house? If it was you, would you still want to live in that house? Would you still want to sleep in the bed of someone accused of the crimes Heuermann is accused of? And I mean, what we're really talking about here is the possibility that someone was actually strangled in the bed that you're sleeping in, and more than one person. Would you be able to sleep sound at night knowing that, first of all, you were sleeping next to someone who allegedly did that, but also that the victim was brought into this room and perhaps did something on this bed? Because can you imagine if it was your DNA on the victim? Wouldn't you wonder how it got there? Wouldn't you wonder what's the link in the chain? And again, isn't the obvious link the bed in the bedroom? So I'm not going to take it further than that. I would be interested to hear what you think. Do you think that there's another plausible possibility? Also, the lawyer for Rex Heuermann has basically come out and said that his client insists that he is innocent. And he says this in spite of the fact that the district attorney is handing over 8 terabytes of evidence in the Rex Heuermann case. That's actually not a lot, given the number of crimes that he's being associated with, compared to 51 terabytes in the Brian Koberger case. It's less than 1/5 the amount of information in that case. Something else I've been curious about, and I'd be interested to hear what you think, is I've heard people talking about the idea that Heuermann wears a toupee. And from certain angles it looks like he does, and from certain angles it looks like that is his hair. What is your opinion on that? And then the final aspect that I want to bring up is the question of, when did the murders begin? Do you think they began somewhere around 2007 and ended around about 2011? Right, because that is the timeline associated with 4 of the victims. Or do you think that the crime started well before then, in the mid-90s? What's your opinion on that? And that definitely is an area where there's some mystery, is when did these crimes start and when did these crimes stop? Anyway, that's all from me. Short episode today. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you guys next time.